Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday. It's 4:30 p.m. Central Time. It means it's office hours here on the ViaMonstra Academy. I'm Johan, Andrew is Andrew, and we'll be hosting this session. Shall we roll the intro?
We shall.
We shall. Still very proud of that little snippet there. I only played it like 100 times, so we're going to play it a few hundred more, at least.
I'm good with it. I love that thing.
So, how are you, sir?
I am doing well. We're, here in the States, we've got a pretty short week, and so it's been. It hasn't felt short. It's been very busy. A sprint to Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I was unusually lucky in that sense because most of our customers they did not have too much this afternoon, so it's actually been a quite relaxing afternoon all in all. So I'm pretty pleased. But we do have some shopping for tonight, of course, as usual.
Of course,
that's how it goes. But what about Intune, ConfigMgr, and all the other good stuff? What's going on?
Yeah, I came across a few things over the last week and a couple of holdovers from last week as well that I didn't have the opportunity to share. I haven't had the chance to dive into these fully yet, but this is kind of a list of great things that I'm looking at reviewing over the long weekend.
Speaking of sharing, I should share your screen then.
Absolutely.
All right then.
And this is exactly what I'll be sharing around the Thanksgiving dinner table tomorrow once I get everybody in one spot.
Oh yeah, your kids will be thrilled.
Well, you know what? They can never get enough of Rudy doing his deep dives across Autopilot and Intune. And that's a good lead into the first link that I have here. So Rudy wrote a 2-part blog post here on kind of what happens and why and how we can remediate potentially when we have certificates that expire on clients that are related to Intune management. This is one of those things that, as I think I understand in the blog post here, that's usually invisible to us and our users. But sometimes you do have a situation where one of these management certificates will expire, and we have to figure out how to remediate them, of course. And as usual, I'll point out one of the things that we love about Rudy's blog posts are the titles, as well as I have love in my heart for the amount of GIFs and memes that he puts in here as well. So great blog posts as always from Rudy. This is one of, as I said, 2. There's a second one here as well that sort of helps us through this process. So Rudy is not the only one that has been busy with multi-part blog post series. Damien is working on a blog post series with getting started and working with Logic apps in Azure. And he posted the second part to this series last week, basically querying MS Graph using a Logic app, which can lead to some great automation, I think, as we start to lean on the cloud services that we have available in Azure as well. So great stuff here. This is something that we've talked about quite a bit, at least shared from other community members over the course of this year. I've seen a lot of conversation around Logic apps, Power Automate, and that sort of thing. So it's great to see that stuff. I also came across something from Microsoft here. Enterprise control for our favorite enterprise application, ClipChamp. So there are ADMX templates that Microsoft has posted in order to actually disable ClipChamp on our enterprise systems, which is great. So there's instructions here on how to obviously we can upload the ADMX to our central store in group policy so that we can use this, but also import those templates into Intune as well. So it doesn't look like this has hit the settings catalog or anything like that. This is the solution for blocking ClipChamp either in group policy or in Intune. We also had some our big monthly news on the Intune side of things. Intune Service Release 2311. We got late last week, I think. Oh yeah, because you mentioned that it was rolling out into APAC last week, but we had not seen the documentation, nor had we seen it in our tenants yet. This one stuck out to me here. This particular category, the settings to manage Windows subsystem for Linux, now being available in the settings catalog. That was pretty interesting. I don't know of too many people that are actually managing that in the enterprise yet, but now that this is available in the settings catalog, and we can see some of the settings that are available here, is pretty interesting to me. That's of course sort of the small Linux container that you can run on Windows, basically, and have Linux available to you natively, which could potentially cause some security questions in your environment. Interestingly enough, too, I am very excited about this, and I think a couple of the things that I just mentioned will probably be covered in this. But I am very excited to announce that Jürgen Nielsen and I, have our first mini course coming up on the ViaMonstra Academy. I'm doubly excited about this because usually it's you, Johan, talking about mini courses that are coming up. And this will be mine and Jürgen's first one here on the Academy. And this is going to be about customizing Windows 11. What we're going to be talking about is not only customizing it with your standard customizations that you might be used to for your users, moving the taskbar, setting file associations, that sort of thing, but also from a security perspective. There are a lot of things these days that, like ClipChamp, for example, that just get installed even on Enterprise OS. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can manage those things, whether it's through removing them or through configuring things in a certain way that doesn't allow for their use. So I'm very excited about this. This is December 14th, from Thursday, December 14th, from 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time.
Can you mention something about the price for our mini courses?
That is the best part. It is free.
$0, €0, zero, whatever, Swedish krona.
Absolutely. Thank you for that reminder, because as you would say, the price I think is right. And this will be a full 2 hours. It's not just us presenting the whole time either. You do have the opportunity to come in and ask questions, things related to this topic, and things that you might have going on in your environment that you're wondering about or you're concerned about. So I hope to see you all there.
Sounds awesome. I'll be there. I'll be in the audience for the second time.
Fantastic. I always love when you're in the audience.
Heckler throw. It's going to be my...
I actually saw something really exciting earlier today, too, that I will be watching before Thanksgiving dinner. This is on my agenda this evening. I saw that you had posted something very exciting earlier today.
Indeed. I had a chance to, a little bit over a week and a half ago, to do an interview with an absolute legend in our IT community, Mr. Niall Brady. He has runs the Windows Noob website and a few other websites for that matter that we will share in the video. But basically, he's been in our Intune and ConfigMgr community for the longest of time, written hundreds and hundreds of guides that I'm assuming most of you have stumbled across over the years. So that was a great opportunity to have a chance to talk to him for a little bit there, like that.
Very cool. Very much looking forward to seeing that. I mean, like you mentioned, I am one of many, many, many people that followed his guides when I first got started. So very exciting there.
Yep, yes, indeed. So I can, let me see, steal the screen for a second. When I find my screen, I will steal it. This was the Bing startup page for the day. Feels quite far from what kind of looks like spring or summer. It's not really that green anymore out here in Chicago. A little bit grass left, but yeah. Anyhow, up on the Deployment Research YouTube channel, this is where you find that latest video with Niall. So highly recommend. It's not too long, but 14 minutes long, give or take. But it was a great chance to talk to him. Now, do we have any questions coming in?
We do, actually. Neil is asking over on LinkedIn, have you seen a database called ConfigMgr _CM1, new DB naming?
So short answer is I've probably seen every naming convention known to man, because you can deviate from the default naming convention if you put your heart into it with ConfigMgr. Most environments, however, is going to be CM underscore in the site code, but it is possible to change that name. So in the early days of ConfigMgr, when it was still part of System Center Suite, it was not uncommon to see like an SCCM underscore whatever site code it was. So it's just a name that someone have assigned manually. It is not a new standard by default. So long answer to short question.
Great question, great answer. So let's see.
Anything else out there? Any questions? I realize a lot of folks are preparing for the festivities this week, so I understand that you don't have all the time in the world to join us here in the office hours, but still, if we are here, we love questions. If you have any, don't hesitate.
We've got a whole 45 minutes left available to us.
Absolutely. Well, in the meantime, I was a little bit busy the other day working on a new blog post. So, and this was a follow-up from a different blog post. So to set some background here, I published a template on how to create or use Autopilot for existing devices to get with MDT Light Touch, because ConfigMgr already had one, MDT didn't, so I wrote one. I have since written one for PSD as well. That will get up to that repository, but that one has not yet been published. If anyone wants it, reach out. I'll be happy to share it. But in the end of this very post, there was a gentleman asking, let's see here. Yeah, okay. Great post, shorthand. How do I create a group with this? How do I, the machines that are being added this way, how do I make sure they end up in a group so I can have some applications and whatnot assigned? And that led me to this writing here on how to create a dynamic group specifically for this scenario. Because it turned out after a little bit of research, and a special thank you to Michael Niehaus, as usual, that had a post on how this very special variable or property worked. But long story short, when you download your deployment profile as a JSON file, there is this entry here that is unique to every profile. It didn't used to be unique, but Michael changed that script back in, I don't know, 3-4 years ago maybe, so it is unique. And don't bother about figuring out what my tenant is. This is just a different grid that I generated. This is not at all my tenant, but anyway, I just want to say it. But this one here is a unique identifier. And when you create your group, if you put in the keyword offline profile dash in front of that particular grid, so it will look like this, then you can start to validate your devices and see that they show up in that group, and therefore you can start to assign applications to them. The fun part is that when you do this, the enrollment status page will very clearly declare that, oh, no applications here, absolutely no apps whatsoever. But when the theme is ready, sure enough, the 3 applications that I have assigned together with this little friend here were installed. So it did work. So yeah, fun.
Fantastic stuff. Absolutely. Very exciting. All right. And while you were showing that, we did actually have a couple of questions come in. We've got one over here on YouTube from Experience. What do other companies use for software metering when not using SCCM, specifically devices managed by Intune?
I haven't stumbled across anything there, not for software metering. The only one I have seen used is ConfigMgr. And I mean, if that's your goal to do that, and you already have Intune, well, that is probably one of those scenarios that it might make sense to keep the ConfigMgr platform around for a few more years, because you already have the license for it. Otherwise, you'll have to buy a solution that can do software metering on top of what Intune offers. I did not see any announcements at Ignite either that Microsoft was working on something like this, so I think you are stuck with some sort of third-party solution for now. If anyone out there happen to have used something together with Intune for software metering, let us know. There is some very limited information you can get out of Intune if there are more than, if it was either 10 or 14 devices that have been running something. At least you can see that it was used, but it's not that granular software metering that you probably are asking for.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Great question. Benny over on YouTube is asking, I've started seeing an error on SCCM with app deployments. The error is failed to decompress CI documents. Have you seen this before? If I edit the application, such as adding a description, it works as it creates a new CI number, trying to work out what is causing the issue.
No, I have not. Something that triggers your memory, Andrew?
Not off the top of my head. That's one of those questions that I would probably send you a message and ask if you had seen it first. But I'm just seeing if I can find anything on it real quick.
I have seen strange deployment behavior when, for example, a collection becomes a bit corrupted, and you can try to deploy to a different collection and see if that does the trick. But it's for a long time since I had to modify a description for an application. It was quite common in the early days of ConfigMgr, and I mean like ConfigMgr 2012 and 2012 SB1 and 2012 R2 SB1. Good naming convention there. Where applications in sequences sometimes would stop functioning completely unless you went in and updated something on the app, for example, the description, to generate a new policy. But yeah.
So I did happen to find a Reddit post where somebody's dealing with something similar.
Shall I share it?
Oh, yes, I do have it up on the screen if you want to share. So basically, CMG issues with client policy getting hung up on this error, failed to decompress CI documents. And it seems they eventually have issues pulling down new policy for changes made to applications with existing deployments or new application deployments. And down here in the comments, there is a workaround, and it sounds like the issue is related to the size of zip/XML of the application assignment data. What's interesting is, often posts like this are, somebody's experiencing the issue. Maybe there's one or two replies. There appears to be a lengthy discussion in this thread. And quite a few people saying that they have been experiencing this as well.
That's quite an unusual length for a Reddit thread.
It really is, especially on such a specific issue. But that once I noticed that, that made me want to really share it.
All right.
So yeah, neither of us have come across this ourselves, so I don't think we can vouch whether or not this works, of course. But Benny, hopefully this will help. We'll make sure that this gets posted in the links this evening. Yeah. So Benny just had a follow up. I also logged it with Microsoft, and they were not sure. And interesting that the original poster here says the same thing. I'm still working with Microsoft, but so far they don't know what's going on. And this is a recent post. This is 2 months ago. So. Something maybe we can keep an eye on if we hear of anybody else coming across that issue, for sure.
Yep.
All right. Question over here on LinkedIn. Any thoughts on the new requirements for upgrading to ConfigMgr 2309, the SQL CRL tools 18?
Yeah, I can share this screen. So they, in the beginning when they launched the 2309 release, they mentioned in the release notes that you absolutely must have this updated ODBC driver, ODBC driver for SQL, but they kind of forgot to put in the link to it. However, when you try to do an install and that prerequisite check is running or prereq checker is running, it will tell in the log file that you need this version, and they also provide you download link in the log file, but not on the documentation. Then I think they fixed that now. But long story short, this is the file that you are looking for. This one is the ODBC driver for version 18 for SQL Server, and the setup will not run without it. So as long as you have that one installed, the setup ran through just fine. There was a follow-up comment on LinkedIn also. If you have a problem with the upgrade except for this one, I have not, but I also have only upgraded one lab so far. We had one customer that bought part of the TAP program that did an early install. They didn't have any problem with the install either. There was some other issues that were fixed before it was released, but I haven't seen them. I would suspect that the usual trick to get a hanged update going again is basically, three things, I guess. First, make sure to disable any antivirus that you have, because just because you have configured exclusions, it doesn't necessarily mean it won't try to block the setup. I even seen rare cases where you have to uninstall the antivirus software and then put it back when the setup was done. The second is to check there is no pending reboot of the server. I've seen that causing issues with upgrades. So usually I have just a PowerShell script that I run before the upgrade that will check for a pending reboot. And sure enough, it's been patched Tuesday, so there is a pending reboot on this device. but these are things I will check very quickly. Also, if an update is hanging and you can still see the update log working, so if you go here to the install folder and logs and take a look at the CM update one, I'm assuming it was able to download the stuff, because otherwise if we did DMP download a log file, you will take a look up. But the CM update is responsible for updates. And if this one stalls or stops for any reason, oftentimes you can just do what Max will probably say you shouldn't, but it works. And that is to restart SMS Executive and just check the log file again. If this doesn't work, all of these things, disabling antivirus, restarting the box, possibly restarting this service, then there is a tool that allows you to restart and update the command line tool that you can run to do that reset. So, few different options available, but yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I think that might have been 3 cents.
Yeah.
Well, that's great stuff. So I'm just trying to keep up with some of the questions here. We do have some things that weren't popping into the chat over here on the stream platform again, so I've grabbed them.
Beautiful.
Yes, love it when that happens. Russell on YouTube is asking about your old yet still wonderful blog post about adding the ADC plugin. Mentions a recommendation to switch from the ADC plugin to a web service, and he did have a clarifying comment: the ADC plugin for the WinPE boot images. Any info about how to set that up?
Yes. I just want the details. I get it. No, in general, when you do operations, that is usually done on the server side, or if you need to do things in Azure or in Microsoft Graph or anything like that, it makes sense to have a web service doing that call rather than the client doing that call. I may be just a smidged biased, but the company I work for part-time, 2Point, they do sell a web service that is was developed initially for Pixie deployments, but it also can do anything a Pixie server can do. A web service can do. See if I have something here I can borrow. I was playing around with this last night. So here is a web service that registers or validates registrations of Autopilot devices. So there is a client-side script that calls the web service, and the web service runs another PowerShell script that, using, in this case, an app registration, and does the work that I needed for it to get done. Verifying connections, verifying access to Autopilot, and in this case, checking a device. It took a few minutes for it to check, but all that code was running server side. Now, obviously, that's a paid component. If you are looking for a free solution, we have successfully used a component called REST-PS. It's a community-driven web service written in PowerShell, and this one works the same thing. And I have some posts here on how to set it up for HTTPS, because the default setup was not HTTPS, and I don't like that. And I also have a link here to the initial how to run it as a service that Michael Nystrom put together. But this is a very similar web service where you have, let's see, this one here, where you would have, get rid of you, client-side scripts that you run in a sequence or running WinPE or whatever that might be. And then you have server-side endpoints that you call from within those scripts. And in this case, I've been doing some different database lookup. I have some Autopilot device cleanup and registration and AD cleanup, but it's all handled by the web service. So basically, the client is sending data to the web service and say, "Hey, go ahead and run your script and let me know when you're done and send me back the result." So not too terribly complicated to set up. Take maybe 20 minutes to get going, but it is a really powerful way of doing more secure deployment, because I don't like to store credentials on clients if I can avoid it. It's easier to have it locked down away on a server somewhere, or as Andrew mentioned earlier today, you have some sort of function up in Azure, for example, that takes care of that part, and then you call that function.
Totally agree. Keep those secrets off your clients.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very exciting stuff that you're working on right there.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So Benny's got another question, and he did say thank you for talking about his issue here. And there was a little bit of back and forth in the chat here as well, so I'm going to try to cover all of it. Trying to do an in-place upgrade using a task sequence from Windows 10 to Windows 11 23H2 seems to get stuck at 14%, and looking online seems to be an issue with the ISO. Have you guys seen this lately? The hacking fix is to replace a DLL from an older ISO.
Yeah.
And there was a follow-up from Russell that he's done this and it works as well.
Oh, yeah. That was a long thread running 2 weeks ago on Twitter on this very topic. People are not excited, but it's still not fixed, not even at the latest cumulative update. So it's been broken for, at the very least, in September, possibly August. But the fix is to put in an older DLL that doesn't have this bug. How this slipped through testing, beyond me, but sometimes that happens.
Right. A little bit of a workaround, I would say there.
But it's not too bad. Copying down the file. All right.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Yeah. All right. And then James was sharing some information, I think this was around the software metering question here a little bit ago. So he recommended Defender might help in that regard. Defender Advanced Hunting monitors software usage. If you mess around with the process launches, for example, monitoring projects to see how many minutes it's used over the period, or who's still using Java for license cleanups, audits, things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
very clever way of using that. All right. Then we had a couple of other questions here. Any update on PIM management in Intune? I think that might be in reference to the question about PIM that we had last week. I haven't had the opportunity to look at that just yet, but I'm, as I mentioned last week, I'm hoping to have some time before we come around next week after we get past the holiday here. Still on my list right here, and it has a big box around it, so hold me to that. Hold me to that next week. I hope that I'll have that done by then.
Sounds good. I'll try my best.
All right. Thank you. There's another question here over on LinkedIn as well. Any new updates for Laps? Nothing that I have seen recently. I mean, we did have the. We talked a little bit about the Entra integration with Laps, went GA, but the functionality remained the same as far as I'm aware, going from preview to GA. I haven't seen anything else that's been released recently.
I didn't notice anything from Ignite either. I mean, I haven't seen all sessions, but I didn't see anything come out of it. Possibly. If anyone happened to stumble across if there were any announcement to run Windows Labs at Ignite, by all means, let us know. We should, of course, mention the upcoming technical takeoff in November. We cannot stress this enough. I was so happy we both were so happy with that one from last year in October. So to be able to find that one. Oh yeah, this one here. Put this one in your calendars. This is like a Thanksgiving dinner on its own, but buffet of sessions. Last year they were very technical sessions, great content, and yeah, there is one actually. Speaking of labs.
Very nice, which is great because that should be. I mean, there was a great Labs session last year before we had Windows Labs actually released that we've talked about quite a bit over the last year.
Yeah.
I really liked the they were almost like bite-sized chunks, but like you said, very technical. There wasn't a lot of fluff in some of in our favorites, at least. I'm very much looking forward to this event.
Yeah. Plus, out of all these sessions, I don't think there is a single one naming Copilot or AI or a combination of both.
Yeah, in fact, there's what's new in Active Directory because I've been seeing there's some new stuff coming in Server, the next version of Server.
Yeah.
That we haven't seen too much in recently, but I think that goes to show that people are in fact still using Active Directory.
What a surprise. Yeah. Now it's funny. Me and Kent, we are working on a class for next year, a migration class, because it sounds simple on the paper to just migrate away from legacy Active Directory, just move all the policies over to Intune and be done with the weekend. Doesn't really work that way in the real world. There's a few steps to it, and there are a lot of dependencies that you have to account for. But for organizations who have done the journey, they typically do not look back and miss Active Directory too much.
No, and I imagine that part of that was born out of not only are you and Kent seeing customers ask that question, but that was, as we talked about a few weeks back, that was the question that I heard most at MMS Miami.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was always surrounding how do I go from hybrid to non-hybrid.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to that course myself.
All right then. All right. Do we have anything else coming in?
Not that I have seen.
Oddly enough, that question that you said about the ADSI plugin that didn't show up on your feed did show up on mine. I think there might be a bug on the platform here that updates the chat.
Now, that one I saw, there is some of the LinkedIn questions or LinkedIn comments and questions aren't coming through properly, but it actually looks like, even looking over on LinkedIn, the chat looks like it's
Caught
having
up?
issues.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think, but I think we're caught up here.
Oh, beautiful. All right. Any other questions out there? We'll be happy to answer. Well, we can at least do a honorary mention. Our friends over at the Petri community, under the lead of Good. Connection is secure. I was wondering there, but November 30, they have an upcoming Teams Day, and this is the second time to do this, and this one is being led by Mr. Stephen Rose himself, and that one is also free to attend. So, highly recommend to watch that one. Should be good fun. Leonardo represented at not the last Teams Day, but I had an event about a month ago that we had a chance to speak at, and it was a great virtual conference.
Yeah, seemed like a really good turnout.
Yeah. Community is good.
As always.
Always good. All right. I don't see anything else showing up in the chat, so I guess we got off easy today.
Every once in a while.
Yeah. For everyone that celebrates, have a fantastic Thanksgiving this week, and for everybody else, has a fantastic week, an upcoming weekend. We hope to see you again next Wednesday, same time, same channel or channels. Have a great Thursday week, everyone.
Very well said, Johan. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
All right.